Hi, this is investigating Maher Audubon Sanctuary in Kent County, Michigan at 10/11/22 with two cams, one on the front and one on the back. Also with local reports. Maher Audubon Sanctuary is in southeastern Kent County, north of Berry County, and next to Ionia County, close to Freeport, Michigan. In this video, I'm using two GoPro Hero 10s, one facing forward and one facing backwards. What's in the video? Okay, the first 20 minutes of this video, during the hike, I'll be talking about the history of this area and the encounters and settings that are linked to it. And the next middle 20 minutes of the video, I see something and smell something, and I'll be going over that. The last 20 minutes of the video, I'll be going over a BFRO report about an encounter that's very strange and unusual that could be linked to all these, my encounters included. That wasn't very far from this area. The first spot I went to, Middleville State Game Area, southern part. There's different sections of it. How will I find somebody's hunting there? Well, I go to the next area a little bit further north, up near the Caledonia Sportsman Club, where the encounters happen, my childhood encounters happen. I get up there, well, they're grooming the trail up there. Well, nothing's going to be around when they're making all that kind of noise, so I turn around. Well, I head down another road that heads down the other side of the Sportsman Club and go by this old farm here. I just had to add that in there. Even my windshield's dirty. It's still worth looking at. It's a cool old farm. You go down this dirt road a little bit further and get to where the Caledonia Sportsman Club is. This is the one that was put up to drive the Sasquatch out in 1978. And, it's probably all my fault. It's closed right now. I pull up to the gate. I go down the road and you can see there's somebody working down there and they're grooming that. And not very far from the gun club is this sanctuary that I'm going to. You just go down some of these little dirt roads here. They've got a few little hills and curves in them. The topography is a lot of steep, not very tall hills over and over through the woods through there. The reason it's still woods is because it was so hilly they couldn't do agriculture on it and flatten it out like they wanted to. They deforested it and they tried doing agriculture on it and it failed because of the steep little short hills. Anyway, you go down this road a little bit more, you get to this Maher Audubon Sanctuary, and it's right in Kent County, Berry County border almost, and not far from the Ionia County either. Yeah, kind of North Country Trail, Thornapple birding area, because all the other places I went to were full of people, hunters. area of the Maher Audubon Sanctuary in 1840, there were more than 100 Native American families camped along the Coldwater River. Arrowheads have been found west of Maher before the land there was ripped for crops in the 1900s. In 1846, 108th Street was opened as a stage route from Battle Creek to Grand Rapids. Way to be quiet out here. In more recent history, before the Maher was gifted the club in 1978, there's that year again, the site was visited by members who noted the bog, the marshy area, the cattails and the sawgrass, and dense woods to the west. If I was Sasquatch, I'd be in the woods where no way we could hunt. So, okay, here's the thing. Maher Audubon Sanctuary and Dolan Nature Sanctuary are right near my childhood encounter area, where everything happened in the woods where the boy Mike was taken. And the search for the boy continued the next day. Now, what the government did was put in the Caledonia Sportsman Club, the gun club, to drive the Sasquatch out in October 1978. Much like they did in years before down in Kalamazoo when they made the Kalamazoo Rod and Gun Club. And I'll have a report in that area from BFRO a little bit later here. It vaguely looks like in the distance there that something's, real low to the ground following me back there, but I could never pick up anything real distinctive. getting that all over the place and some shadows in the woods here, and it kind of sort of leads up to something I'll show you in a bit. Now, the agents talked about this encounter that happened in Kalamazoo to drive them to give money to the Rod and Gun Club to open up a shooting range and expand their club down there, to drive up more Sasquatch, pretty much like they did there in Caledonia in my encounter. From what I remember them talking about, it was an encounter where someone was taking a child, a female, and I am not sure if this BFRO report that I'm going to tell you about later in this video here is the actual encounter, that maybe there was more to it, or I don't know, it just sounds awfully close to what they talked about. As a matter of fact, it was the same agent that designed both the logos for each of these gun clubs, and they look similar. And even from the description of what I remember, I actually drove right there one day when I needed to find the place. It's not far from Gull Lake, where these other encounters on the BFRO report that I'm about to show you took place. And it's just too much of a coincidence for me to ignore, and I'll get to that in a little bit. And another thing, the gun club's land and the land that I'm on here for this video, which is the sanctuary, were both given up by the same person in the same year. Coincidence? No, I don't think so. I think they wanted a spot for the Sasquatch to be when there was hunting season. Or more land for them, that's going to be preserved, where there's not going to be houses built. I remember them talking about something to that effect. The Native Americans were pretty serious about protecting the Sasquatch. They weren't really out to kill them. They're out to try to manage them, but they weren't out trying to kill them. Okay, this Dolan Nature Sanctuary, or Wildlife Sanctuary, here is relatively new from 2016. It's a 127-acre parcel located in southeastern Kent County. It's just up over here alongside the Coldwater River. It's about 1.5 miles from Freeport. Now, all this information that I'm sharing with you right now that I got from the agents was after I got shot up with sodium pentothal. After they found Mike's body at the neighbor's, they brought me back to my house because they needed a ride to bring me into Grand Rapids to have me hypnotized to forget about it. But that was going to take a while, so the 3 Native Americans sat at my kitchen table, wouldn't let to talk about anything with each other because they figured the drugged up 10-year-old wouldn't remember anything, and he's going in to get hypnotized anyway. So they didn't have a ride because they came there in the cleaning vans, and they needed something to transport me further into Grand Rapids. So they sat there and talked about various different things, and this is what they talked about. I don't remember all the details. I really wish I did. I tried to get more information out of my brain about the Kalamazoo encounter, but I have very little. And I found this other encounter on the BFRO page, and like I said, I'll put a description in the, I'll put a link in the description below for this BFRO account, and it's pretty unique. I'll get to that after I get to this spot up here to where something strange kind of happens. For about 20 minutes I'm going to be going around with both these cameras up here, and I won't be talking much because some strange stuff's going on. And after that I'll get to the BFRO report.
Quail.
That's kind of peculiar, isn't it? Can't bring my damn camera. Now there's something somewhere hiding in this woods making that smell. I think I found something I'll show you at the end of the video. It isn't much. It kind of looks like a skull by a tree stump. The tree stump gets a little bit bigger and then it gets a little bit skinnier. There isn't anything real defined that I can find anywhere other than everything's just really odd. And I'm not going to cut anything out from the front to the back cameras through these woods through here because something creepy's going on. I don't know exactly what it is. I really can't find it. I wonder if that's human made. Find out when I get closer. See if it has any cut wood on there, if they're broken. From here it looks like they're cut. Oh, that's a weird smell. It smells like a whole bunch of frickin' paint. I'll be damned. Oh, that was fucking upside down. Now this smell, I can't explain it. It was enough to make me gag, like somebody just dumped a 55-gallon barrel of lacquer thinner out there. And I can't explain it. I've heard encounters like this before. I don't know, I've never smelled anything this putrid before, this strong, and it changes smell. Here, I'll show you. It's a cut. That one looks like it's cut, but that one looks like it's cut. But they're all dead, so they could have just been broken like that too. Like somebody hunts back here, maybe. Oh. Let's see what else we got going on here. That's just bizarre. Right on the other side is a creek. This is a no hunting zone, so is this for bird watchers or is this a Sasquatch built thing? Looks a little bit too human for me. She's on the middle of nowhere. downwind of it. It's got to be coming that way. It smells like tons of lacquer paint. I know that's weird. I don't know what the hell else it smells like. Smell again. Looks like a hidey spot over there, but I'm not going in now through that shit. A lot of fallen trees back here. Looks like it floods out and gets soft back here and they fall over. tree up there. Another spot they like to hide. These weird ass smells I'm getting out here. All of them smell like chemicals. That smells like leather polish for a shoe. Just had to make sure there wasn't something hiding in it. Juveniles that get up in a crotch like that where it's all rotted out. Hit their infrasound and cloaking, they're really easy. Same thing with that other tree over there that's got hollowed out and fallen down. This kind of stuff. This is an atypical spot where a little guy would hide right there. Here's another spot. And these hollowed out fallen logs. A duck behind here. Right up right in here. It's hollow. Yeah, there's got to be something back here. There's enough sticky stuff back here and water. I've got their no hunting zone back here. It's a big birch. Aspen. Sorry. It's got shrooms growing on it. sure they already know I'm here and freaking hid. Once in a great while they answer back. Not around here, they all seem to know me. Oh, it's the cameraman. God, it smells funny back here. Putrid smelling. Freaking really, really heavy chemicals. Like somebody spilled a 55-gallon drum of freaking lacquer paint down here. Can't say I've ever smelled that in the woods before. I'll take a look at some other spots. Really heavy chemical. Sold 55 Always gotta check the trees. Can't always look all the way up though. Albie, what the hell is that? Maybe nothing. This is a BFRO investigator Jim Sherman's report, and it reads exactly like this. Report number 37553, Class A, submitted by a witness on Tuesday, November 20th, 2012. Multiple childhood interactions recalled by a woman who grew up near Kalamazoo. Year 1969 through 1979. Season spring. Date May through January. State Michigan. County Kalamazoo County. Observed. I have several encounters with Sasquatch. I also believe it was the same one with both times, although the encounters were 10 years apart. The encounter was when I was in second grade. I was born in 1963, so it was quite a few years ago. I was playing at a school playground in Kalamazoo, Michigan. My mother, teachers, and other students were also at the playground. The adults were setting up a picnic for the students. It was close to the school ending for the summer holiday. I wandered off into a woodland area near the playground. It was a very peaceful and sunny day. I was picking up pine cones, etc. while moving through the woods. I was not paying attention to my surroundings and was looking down at the ground. I was stopped very abruptly when I physically ran into a Sasquatch. It was huge and towered over me, holding a large pine tree limb in its right arm. I wasn't afraid because as a child I didn't know this was an unusual thing. I thought it was just natural to see such a thing in the woods, and he stood on two legs. His face had expression. His first expression was surprise or anger. His face calmed quickly to a gentle, almost observant glance. To see his face, I had to turn my head straight up as if looking at the sky.
A lot of sticky stuff up over there.
His skin had tawny, reddish hue, and his body and his face and head was covered with deep chocolate hair/fur. He stood looking at me for a long time. I did not move. Did not notice any odor. He was very quiet and his eyes were very gentle. I sensed that he understood that I was a child. He then turned to his left, releasing the tree branch that he was holding with his right hand. He walked away from me in long, strong strides. The branch that he was holding, he swung loudly over his head. Then the report reads, it was a very tall tree and the lowest branch was several feet over my head. Then it reads, my second encounter happened when I was 16 years old. 1979, ? I was at my family home, sitting in the front porch, waiting for a friend to pick me up to go out for the evening. It was winter time and there was snow on the ground. This encounter also took place in Kalamazoo, Michigan. I heard a low, guttural growl coming up from the side of the house. My parents were not home and it was dark outside. Our house was completely surrounded by woods. I heard large, heavy stepping. Something with great weight was moving slowly along the house to where I was sitting. I sensed it was a large animal. I stood up and walked off the porch and headed down the driveway towards my neighbor's house. I remember I started singing softly to myself, and the knocking, the growling, and walking noises stopped. Once I had made it down the driveway, my friend had pulled up in her car. And I could see her looking at something on the side of our house. I then recognized him as the same creature I had seen when I was a child. With that recognition, I did not feel afraid. I felt almost relieved. The next day, there were large footprints in the snow coming out of the woods alongside my family's house. Footprints traveled to the front of the house, around the dogwood tree, and down the front yard. My parents had somebody to come and analyze the prints. They were told that the prints were not a hoax, but made by something or someone very large with much weight. It was winter time, and there was deep snow on the ground.
What was that?
Prints were very clear, and the snow beneath the print was particularly icy, as if the heat from the foot itself had melted the snow. I never told my parents about these encounters until a couple of years ago when they finally informed me that they had seen the footprints in the snow back in 1979 and called someone to look at them. And the report also goes on saying, I am a dancer and choreographer. I grew up not only dancing in the studio but also dancing at my parents' living room that has large windows that look out over the woods in the back of the house. I have often felt something was watching me from the woods. I've never felt frightened of it though. Kind of like right here with all this cover here with these trees and this brush, and this fallen tree. Anything could be hiding here. Maybe because I believe humans are more frightening than Sasquatch. I am sure I have experienced visits from the same Sasquatch. In a way, I feel rather protective of the whole species because I believe he was protective of me growing up. And next we have the follow-up investigation report by BFRO investigator Jim Sherman. And he says, recently I have been working on a few cases in Michigan that have seemed to show some sort of curiosity reported between humans and something mysterious in the woods. Growing up, I have heard of tales of Bigfoot-like creatures terrorizing people and in search of, and B-movies did not help to lessen that fear of the unknown that I carried with me whenever I started to get in the dark of the woods. Because of this desire, I pay particular attention whenever I find a report with either frequent interaction, often called habilitation, or any type of positive interactions.
Definitely see why it's a bird sanctuary.
The following case is therefore great interest to me because it may show that continued interaction can occur over a long period of time, and it may be simply be to the matter of trust and interest that brings the two different beings into contact with one another.
He's got jets going over. I ain't gonna about the hell. It's a chipmunk. I heard a snake. A lot of jets going over. I'm over here, aren't they? This is the kind of brush they like to hide in.
After reading through this report, I knew the location of both of the sightings. I grew up a few miles away from both locations, and I spent a great deal of time in the woods nearby as a child. I'm going to remove the locations from the report because one of the schools is still there and operational, and the mother of the witnesses still resides in the home where the second sighting occurred. Suffice to say that the area still has plenty of large and interconnected forests with numerous bodies of water, including tributaries of the Kalamazoo River. And as an overview, he writes, the witness, Miss W., was in the second grade and was with her mother in the elementary school picnic on the playground. Her mother was busy cooking food, so Mrs. W. wandered off to the edge of the playground looking at pine needles in the trees. She remembered that the tall pine trees formed a canopy over her head, and that it looked to her like a wonderland. The sun was shining through the breaks of the trees, and Mrs. W. was imaginatively twirling and skipping through the path in the woods. This is when she ran into something that she took to be a tree at first, as she was knocked back quite a bit. When she focused on what she had run into, she saw an enormous creature. Looking at me, she said, not a man. She believes that she ran into the upper thigh of the creature, and it felt like solid as a rock, but with a softness. She told me that she knew it was not a man, so the idea of never talking to strangers did not apply. So she remained there and was not afraid, as she might have been. She had never heard of anything like this in the woods and recalled thinking it was normal. The creature looked down at Mrs. W. with a startled and slightly angry look on its face, almost of thinking, how rude of you. But this look quickly changed to one of curiosity. She said she was positive it was male, but she could not tell me how she knew that. Her description of the creature began with a declaration that the covered figure was not fur, but rather hair. It was scraggly, matted, long and brittle or dry looking. In the color, she said she could see three tones, but mostly dark brown with some reddish and lighter highlights that stood out in the sunlight when struck. She said there was a little hair on the face, and it appeared with deep lines underneath, particularly the eyes. The chest had hair on it, but you could see the leathery flesh underneath. By this point, most wonder how long this interaction lasted in order for such a young person to have such a good look at a thing before her, but both remained motionless for a long period of time, and the witness assured me that her picture in her mind was clear as the day that it happened. And then she says, the head seemed to be balanced on the shoulders, no teeth, ears, or neck were apparent. At this point, Mrs. W. believes that her mother had called her. The figure then turned to the left while holding back a branch on the tree with its long right arm. It let go of the branch and it swung loudly, way over her head.
Nice warm 70s out.
It walked quickly out of sight, but looked back once a bit over its shoulder. The manner of walking seemed like it was heavy, deliberate, and powerful, but the stride was smooth and unrushed.
That's a goofy looking tree, isn't it?
She ran back to her mom to tell her what had happened, but her mom was too busy and no one seemed to listen to her. She realized that she had no name to give to the creature, and it made it difficult to describe it, so she decided to stop trying to tell anyone about it. Later, Mrs. W. saw the Patterson-Gimlin film and thought to herself, "This is my guy." Mrs. W. is now a dance instructor and lives out of state. She recalled how she used to get the feeling that something was out there in the woods near her home that was located near their playground setting. This feeling was particularly powerful when she practiced dancing in front of a large window that faced the woods. Much later, Mrs. W. told her mother about these feelings and found that the large footprints have been discovered around the house during one winter, and someone had been called to look at them, but they never told the children for fear of scaring them. A few years later, Miss W., who now lived a few miles from home, was awakened one night by banging on her house. She now lived on the second floor, and the banging was coming from under her room. Just before she went to sleep that night, she had witnessed a strange sight. 12 deer had bedded down in her front yard. When morning came, she looked at the area of the banging and found dents in the house and damage to the shutters. She wondered if her buddy had followed her home to home. She began to think of herself as Sasquatch bait. This feeling intensified more recently when she moved to her new out-of-state home. She did not want to make the move and was homesick. The area was in the sticks and she was a bit worried. One night while she was taking out the garbage, she heard a series of long howls. She said it seemed to come from something as big as a cow. We discussed animals like bison and elk, and she's familiar with them, and stated that it could not have been any of these animals. It seemed as if the caller was in pain, or at least very sad. Mrs. W. empathized with their unknown vocalizer. It was representative of how I felt, Mrs. W. said. Miss W. does not think that her buddy had followed her from Michigan. She just believes that she is more in tune with what is going on in the woods because she is listening for them. I shared some vocals with her that I had captured from Michigan, and more than one of them were exact matches. She was thankful that she had the chance to tell her story, and I was spellbound for the few hours that we had spoke.
Any frogs even could be sunning themselves. Maybe too late in the season.
Yeah, it kind of looks like something's watching me out there. I can't see it well enough.
Getting close to being back by the road. Ride's almost over. I have to go find another place where there's not hunters.
And the report goes on. She left me with this last thought, and I found it compelling. I feel a connection, and I don't want any harm to come to these creatures. Well, that's the whole report. I'll put a link in the description below, and you can read yourself this BFRO report by Jeff Sherman and many others in the Michigan area.
Sticky stuff. I don't know. I just know I'd be hiding out here if I was Sasquatch during hunting season. Deer for that matter too. Cattails are huge. There's a house. A nice spot to live. Back to the truck where some idiot parked behind me.
Hey, we're about done with this hike. I checked out this place pretty thoroughly. I hope you enjoyed the reports and the video. Thanks, guys. Okay, before I go on another video, I'm going to have a detailed description of some of the things that I'm seeing here from the backwards camera. What I'm looking at here might be a skull with a hand holding it. I'll have more on this later. Thanks, guys. Hey, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. It helps the channel. Appreciate it.